Sri Chaitanya, Charitamrita, translated with commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Adi Leela, Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Text 107. The material defects of mistakes, illusions, cheating, and sensory inefficiency do not exist in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. A mistake is the acceptance of an object to be different than what it is, or the acceptance of false knowledge. For example, one may see a rope in the dark and think it to be a serpent, or one may see a glittering oyster shell and think it to be gold. These are mistakes. Similarly, an illusion is a misunderstanding which arises from inattention while hearing, and cheating is the transmission of such defective knowledge to others. Materialistic scientists and philosophers generally use such words as maybe and perhaps because they do not have actual knowledge of complete facts. Therefore, their instructing others is an example of cheating. The final defect of the materialistic person is his inefficient senses. Although our eyes, for example, have the power to see, they cannot see that which is situated at a distance. Nor can they see the eyelid, which is the object nearest to the eye. To our untrained eyes, the sun appears to be just like a plate. And to the eyes of one who is suffering from jaundice, everything appears to be yellow. Therefore, we cannot rely on the knowledge acquired through our imperfect senses. The ears are equally imperfect. We cannot hear a sound vibrated a long distance away unless we put a telephone to our ear. Similarly, if we analyze all our senses in this way, we will find them all to be imperfect. Therefore, it is useless to acquire knowledge through the senses. The Vedic process is to hear from authority. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo vidhu. Translation. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. End translation. Bhagavad Gita 4:2. We have to hear, not from a telephone, but from an authorized person, for it is he who has real knowledge. Text 108. The Absolute Truth is described by the Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, but one must understand the verses as they are. That is the supreme glory in understanding. Purport. It has become fashionable since the time of Shankaracharya to explain everything regarding the Shastras in an indirect way. Scholars take pride in explaining everything in their own way, and they declare that one can understand the Vedic scriptures in any way he likes. This any way you like method is foolishness, and it has created havoc in the Vedic culture. One cannot accept scientific knowledge in his own whimsical way. In the science of mathematics, for example, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and one cannot make it equal 3 or 5. Yet, although it is not possible to alter real knowledge, people have taken to the fashion of understanding Vedic knowledge in any way they like. It is for this reason that we have presented Bhagavad Gita as it is. We do not create meanings by concoction. Sometimes commentators say that the word Kurukshetra in the first verse of Bhagavad Gita refers to one's body. But we do not accept this. We understand that Kurukshetra is a place which still exists, and according to the Vedic version, it is a dharmic kshetra, a place of pilgrimage. People still go there to perform Vedic sacrifices. Foolish commentators, however, say that Kurukshetra means the body and that the Pancha Pandavas refers to the 5 senses. In this way, they distort the meaning, and people are misled. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that all Vedic literatures, including the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and others, whether Shruti, Smriti, or Nyaya, must be understood according to their own original statements. To describe the direct meaning of the Vedic literatures is glorious, but to describe them in one's own way, using imperfect senses and imperfect knowledge, is a disastrous blunder. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully deprecated the attempt to describe the Vedas in this way. Regarding the Upanishads, the following 11 Upanishads are considered to be the topmost: Isha, Kena, Katha, Prasna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitareya, Chandogya, Brihad Aranyaka, and Svetasvatar. However, in the Muktipanishad, verses 30 through 39, there is a description of 108 Upanishads. Here, Srila Prabhupada lists the 108 Upanishads and names them. To see this list, refer to the text. Thus, there are 108 generally accepted Upanishads, of which 11 are the most important, as previously stated. Text 109. Sripad Shankaracharya has described all the Vedic literatures in terms of indirect meanings. One who hears such explanations is ruined. Text 110. Shankaracharya is not at fault, for he has thus covered the real purpose of the Vedas under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The Vedic literature is to be considered a source of real knowledge, but if one does not take it as it is, one will be misled. For example, Bhagavad Gita is an important Vedic literature which has been taught for many years. But because it was commented upon by unscrupulous rascals, people derived no benefit from it, and no one came to the conclusion of Krishna consciousness. Since the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is now presented as it is, however, within 4 or 5 short years, thousands of people all over the world have become Krishna conscious. That is the difference between direct and indirect explanations of Vedic literature. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, there's a Sanskrit verse here, to instruct Vedic literature according to its direct meaning without false commentary is glorious. Unfortunately, Sri Shankaracharya, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, compromised between atheism and theism in order to cheat the atheists and bring them to theism, and to do so he gave up the direct method of Vedic knowledge and tried to present a meaning which is indirect. It is with this purpose that he wrote his Sariraka Bhasya, commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. One should not, therefore, attribute very much importance to the Sariraka Bhasya. In order to understand Vedanta philosophy, one must study the Srimad Bhagavatam, which begins with the words Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmad Yasya Yato Nivayad Itaratas Charteshva Bhigna Swarat. Translation. I offer my obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, who is the supreme, all-pervading personality of Godhead. I meditate upon him, the transcendent reality, who is the primeval cause of all causes, from whom all manifested universes arise, in whom they dwell, and by whom they are destroyed. I meditate upon that eternally effulgent Lord, who is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and yet is fully independent. Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Srimad Bhagavatam is the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Unfortunately, if one is attracted to Sri Shankaracharya's commentary, Sarakabhasya, his spiritual life is doomed. One may argue that since Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, how is it that he cheated people in this way? The answer is that he did so on the order of his master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in the Padma Purana in the words of Lord Shiva himself. There are 3 Sanskrit verses here. Translation. The Mayavadi philosophy, Lord Shiva informed his wife Parvati, is impious, asat chastra. It is covered Buddhism, my dear Parvati. It is covered Buddhism. My dear Parvati, in the form of a Brahmin in Kali Yuga, I teach this imagined Mayavad philosophy. In order to cheat the atheists, I describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be without form and without qualities. Similarly, in explaining Vedanta, I describe the same Mayavad philosophy in order to mislead the entire population toward atheism by denying the personal form of the Lord. End translation. In the Shiva Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead told Lord Shiva. There's a Sanskrit verse here. Translation. In Kali Yuga, mislead the people in general by propounding imaginary meanings for the Vedas to bewilder them. End translation. These are the descriptions of the Puranas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that Mukhyavriti, the direct meaning, is Abhidhadvriti, or the meaning which one can understand immediately from the statements of dictionaries, whereas Gunavriti, the indirect meaning, is a meaning that one imagines without consulting the dictionary. For example, one politician has said that Kurukshetra refers to the body, but in the dictionary there is no such definition. Therefore, this imaginary meaning is Gunavriti, whereas the direct meaning found in the dictionary is Mukhyavriti, or Abhidhavriti. This is the distinction between the two. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that one understand the Vedic literature in terms of Abhidhavriti, and the Gunavriti he rejects. Sometimes, however, as a matter of necessity, Vedic literature is described in terms of the Lakshanavriti or Gunavriti, but one should not accept such explanations as permanent truths. The purpose of the discussions in the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra is to philosophically establish the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. The impersonalists, however, in order to establish their philosophy, accept these discussions in terms of Lakshanavriti, or indirect meanings. Thus, instead of being Tattvavad, or in search of the Absolute Truth, they become Mayavad, or illusioned by the material energy. When Sri Vishnu Swami, one of the four acharyas of the Vaishnava cult, presented his thesis on the subject matter of Suddhadvaitavada, immediately the Mayavadis took advantage of this philosophy and tried to establish their Advaitavada, or Kevaladvaita Vada. To defeat this Kevaladvaita Vada, Sri Ramanujacharya presented his philosophy as Vishishtadvaita Vada, and Sri Madhvacharya presented his philosophy of Tattvavada, both of which are stumbling blocks to the Mayavadis because they defeat their philosophy in scrupulous detail. Students of Vedic philosophy know very well how strongly Sri Ramanujacharya's Vishishtadvaita Vada and Sri Madhvacharya's Tattvavada contest this impersonal Mayavad philosophy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, accepted the direct meaning of the Vedanta philosophy and thus defeated the Mayavad philosophy immediately. He opined in this connection that anyone who follows the principles of the Saurakya Bhashya is doomed. This is confirmed in the Padma Purana, wherein Lord Shiva tells Parvati. There are 3 Sanskrit verses here. Translation. My dear wife, hear my explanation of how I have spread ignorance through Mayavad philosophy. Simply by hearing it, even an advanced scholar will fall down. In this philosophy, which is certainly very inauspicious for people in general, I have misrepresented the real meaning of the Vedas and have recommended that one give up all activities in order to achieve freedom from karma. In this Mayavad philosophy, I have described the Jivatma and Paramatma to be one and the same. End translation. How the Mayavad philosophy was condemned by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers is described in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila, 2nd chapter, verses 94 through 99, where Swarup Damodar Goswami says that anyone who is eager to understand the Mayavad philosophy must be considered insane. This especially applies to a Vaishnava who reads the Saurakya Bhashya and considers himself to be one with God. The Mayavadi philosophers have presented their arguments in such attractive, flowery language that hearing Mayavad philosophy may sometimes change the mind of even a Mahabhagavata, or very advanced devotee. An actual Vaishnava cannot tolerate any philosophy that claims God and the living being to be one and the same.